Hey. Hello. And welcome to my channel. Thank you for choosing my video for information. Today I am going to give you information about top 10 war movies. Hope you enjoy my video. Before starting, if you are new, subscribe please. Let's start the show. On number 10 in war movies is Where Eagles Dare. As the Second World War thriller became bogged down during the mid-60s and plotting epics like Operation Crossbow and The Heroes of Telemark, someone was needed to reintroduce a little sang-froid, some paso car espionage, and for heaven's sake, some proper macho thrills into the genre. Alistair MacLean stepped up, writing the screenplay and the novel of Where Eagles Dare simultaneously, and Brian G. Hutton summoned up a better-than-usual cast headed by Richard Burton, Major Jonathan Smith, a still fresh-faced Clint Eastwood, Lieutenant Morris Schaefer, and the late Mary Ellison. On number 9. Rome, Open Cities. There is perhaps no film to rival the humanism and clarity of purpose of Roberto Rossellini's neorealist masterpiece, which documents the Nazi occupation of Rome and the bravery of the Italian resistance. It scarcely matters how many times you watch it, the image of a woman shot in the back as she runs through the street is astonishing in its barbarism. Number 8. La Grande Illusion. It takes some doing to make a First World War film that transcends the war itself, but that's what Jean Renoir achieved with this authoritative but compassionate movie, to the extent that it was still dangerous by the time of the second. In addition, it's the wellspring of so many war movie cliches, the seditious singing of the Marseillaise by French prisoners of war, later borrowed by Casablanca, the mechanics of tunnel digging, as aped by The Great Escape. And it provided an enduring archetype of German officer-class stiffness in the form of Erich von Stroheim's monocled, neck-braced von Rauffenstein. '7. The Deer Hunter. Writer-director Michael Cimino had but one feature under his belt, the spirited caper movie Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, before he found himself at the helm of the first epic studio movie directly about the lately concluded Vietnam War that had traumatized his country. Taking a leaf from Coppola's Godfather, Cimino opens his story slowly, with an extended working-class Russian Orthodox wedding sequence in the three lead characters' Pennsylvania mining hometown, followed by a hunting trip to the nearby mountains. On number 6. Three Kings. When he came to make his third film, David O. Russell already had behind him an abrasive indie debut, Spanking the Monkey, and an accomplished modern screwball, Flirting with Disaster. But that could hardly prepare audiences for the ambition and reach of his black comedy with a conscience, Three Kings, about a gold heist that takes place at the end of the 1991 Gulf War. The movie came to be known briefly for starting a war of its own, between Russell and his star, George Clooney, who had gossips on set over the director's apparent volatility. The pair have only recently enjoyed a rapprochement. The film endures, though, as one of the great modern examples not only of the rhetorical weight of the best war movies but of the miracles that can occur when mavericks work in Hollywood. '5. Come and See. Taking its title from a verse from the Book of Revelation that describes the coming of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, Elementary Klimov's 1985 depiction of the German occupation of Belarus is both as brutal and lyrical as that foundation suggests. It perhaps lacks the technical sophistication of the European cinema of its time, but Klimov's raw and urgent film is not interested in being like others. Its closest peer is Volker Schlendorf's The Tin Drum, in that it's the story of a young boy during wartime, but this is a child whose innocence is much more quickly lost, starting as a sheltered adventurer but soon traumatized by the violent maelstrom of Adolf Hitler's war. Number 4. Gran. Kurosawa's last great film was made after many years in the wilderness. His star had fallen in Japan after a period of extraordinary artistic fertility ended in the mid-60s. His eyesight was failing, he'd attempted suicide. In 1980, he returned to favor with Cage Mushla, which was seen as a rehearsal for his long-planned adaptation of King Lear. Gran finally appeared in 1985, and in its portrait of a great man who has lost control of his offices of power, critics were quick to read the experiences of the director himself. The Thin Red Line. In the 1962 James Jones novel on which it is based, this is a story about the Guadalcanal campaign, fought in the Solomon Islands in 1942-3. And while The Thin Red Line holds a deserved place in the annals of war movies, it is rather more a war dreamed of by Terrence Malick than the one actually fought for in reality. For Jones, the Thin Red Line came from Kipling and stood for the infantry, but it was also the line that separated the saint from the mad. The author of From Here to Eternity, Jones had actually served at Guadalcanal, but in the preface to his novel he admits he had created a place of the imagination. In truth, that is the key to Malick's film, which, filmed in Queensland and in the Solomon Islands, is as interested in the flora and fauna of the Pacific as it is in the outcome of the combat. So we see American soldiers trying to take a hill, but we see more of the long grass in the wind than we do of the enemy. Beneath it all, the shooting and the talk, there is a sense of the island having been there long before and long after the battle. Number 2. Paths of Glory. This is one of the darkest anti-war films ever made, in great part because its vision, that of the young director Stanley Kubrick, he was only 29, making his third full-length picture, is as bleak as the story. The place is the Western Front of the First World War, in a section manned by the French army. An attack is decreed by General Brigadier Adolphe Menjou, and passed on to General Meyer, George Macready, to execute. Everyone knows the attack is doomed because infantry advancing over open ground torn apart by artillery barrages will be cut down by the machine guns in the secure German lines. But when the plan fails, Brugger determines that there must be scapegoats, alleged cowards or malingerers, who betrayed the national purpose. Colonel Dax, Kirk Douglas, who led the attack, is charged with picking 3 victims who will be subject to court-martial and firing squad. Yeah. On number 1, the king of war movies is Apocalypse Now. It was John Milius who first came up with the idea of transposing Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness to a Vietnam War setting. Milius wrote the first drafts of the screenplay. Former war correspondent Michael Hare later added narration. George Lucas was down to direct, but it was Francis Ford Coppola who finally set out to make what was intended to be the ultimate statement about the madness of war. It turned out to be equally about the madness of movie making. Captain Willard, Martin Sheen, pitches a lift on a Navy patrol boat up the Mekong River to Cambodia on a mission to terminate with extreme prejudice a certain Colonel Kurtz, Marlon Brando, who is reported to have gone native in rather a nasty way. But it's a long journey, and before he confronts the renegade colonel, Willard must first face all manner of trippy imagery, including the American air cavalry strafing a Vietnamese village to the sound of amplified Wagner, Robert Duvall declaring that he loves the smell of napalm in the morning, a riot triggered by frogging bunny girls, a Californian surfer on LSD, and Dennis Hopper as a madly babbling photojournalist. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe if you like it. And don't forget to watch other videos on my channel. I love you guys so much. And I make more videos for your information. Bye. Thank you.